To me, enterprise web app software development is tremendously important, and I'm certainly very deeply involved in enterprise web app development because I think uh, making services available online is practically everything in in computing nowadays and in the future. And if you are not offering services online, then you are not a relevant or feasible computing service or information technology company, or business. So enterprise web app is definitely tremendously important, and I see a lot of new different enterprise web app technologies becoming available in the future, particularly in like AI, robotics, and biotech, because I'm deeply interested in and committed to those technology fields. So I'll talk more about enterprise web app development later. Um, Hopefully within a couple of months. But for now, I'll just go over some like a basic or the fundamental issues and concepts in enterprise web app development and deployment. Uh, to me, for now, in my view, the enterprise web app development and deployment entail the following concerns, issues, and techniques. Uh, and within the next few months, I'll cover them all. End-to-end enterprise web technology stack and tool chain, enterprise web software design paradigms and principles, microservices and event-driven architecture, back-end reactive programming, high levels of availability and service continuity, and extensible and scalable and reliable back-end software development, which are all key features in enterprise web app, and that all must be addressed and properly handled by one or more enterprise web app software developers. And enterprise web software service continuity and availability management paradigm, service continuity and availability are tremendously vital in enterprise web apps. So that's something that must be dealt with in enterprise web software development and deployment. And paradigm and process spec for designing, deploying, and monitoring a high scalability, high availability, and auto-scaling web server cluster with AWS Elastic load balancing and self-replicating containerized database and web application with enterprise web software service continuity and availability management. A big topic and big issue on its own. It must be handled properly. I'll definitely cover that later when I get more time. When to use which AWS load balancing service? AWS application load balancer, network load balancer, or gateway load balancer. Something that needs to it needs to be thought about, and it needs to be dealt with, and it needs to be handled properly. So that's one issue definitely that should be dealt with, handled properly in enterprise web development and deployment. And paradigm for choosing between a database and an AWS data lake. When to use when, you know. Those design decisions must be made, written down, discussed, and implemented properly, and then updated properly. A lot of work must be done in enterprise web app development and deployment. And AWS Enterprise Web Staging Environment Installation and Maintenance Paradigm and Process Spec. AWS Web Enterprise Web Production Environment Installation and Maintenance Paradigm and Process Spec. All important. Enterprise web app design and implementation paradigm and process spec. I'll talk about that later. Enterprise RESTful API design paradigm and process spec. Enterprise GraphQL API design paradigm and process spec. Fully automated auto scaling, load balancing, enterprise web production environment with high scalability and a high availability database on AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, Oracle Cloud, or IBM Cloud. It's work. Needs to be done in enterprise web development and deployment. And using Amazon S3 as a data lake provider, something to be thought about, like a big enterprise web apps such as Zillow use Amazon S3 as a data lake. Last time I checked. I don't know if they still use that, but so it's certainly one issue to look into. And using multiple programming languages in enterprise web app, website backend, one issue to think about and deal with. Source code, the version control system usage paradigm and process spec for Git, GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and AWS code commit. And like Azure, Microsoft Azure, CI/CD. And enterprise web app development process, writing that and discussing that is important in enterprise web app development and deployment, especially team enterprise web app development and deployment. Enterprise web app development and deployment tool chain from word processor to AWS. It's a long way to go from specifying design in word processor to actual deployment, but that entire process must be specified in writing and discussed, tested, and improved. So that certainly is one key issue in enterprise web app development and deployment. And defensive software programming methods. You don't want your web app, and especially enterprise web app, to get hacked. Although getting hacked happens quite often. Enterprise web backend software development, web standard, reactive programming, web communications technologies, webhooks and callbacks, and TDD, test-driven development. I definitely talk more about all of those in the ensuing weeks and months, and maybe even years. I don't know if I can, if I'd have more to talk about after a couple of years, but I'll look into it. I would see. All right.